So today I just want to talk a little bit about reflection. Reflection. That's a big thing as a human that you must be able to do to essentially grow, develop, and in all honesty not make the same mistake twice. You reflect on a situation. You reflect on the outcome. Us as teachers, it's a part of the teaching process. They always say it's equally important to reflect. You write up a lesson plan, you deliver or implement that lesson plan, and at the end you have to self-reflect. You look at, how did your students do following this lesson plan? How did you do teaching this lesson plan? Are there things that you would improve upon? In all honesty, very few lessons don't have some sort of improvement that can be made, especially when you look at the educational landscape. Things are always changing, so just going along with the times, you can always improve or integrate something. At one point, technology was not the way it was. I remember being in third grade, maybe second grade, actually getting on a computer. Like, I remember my childhood growing up, I still remember dial-up and all that stuff. So it was like computers and iPhones and things like that. Like, those weren't really things that were there. Like, people my age, I want to say, I'm 26. So those who are definitely older than me, and then probably some that are slightly younger than me, probably within 3 years from my age, we were that last batch, that last group that may truly remember growing up in a world where, guess what? Technology was not readily available. You did not grow up with the iPhone, the iPad, this, that, and the other in your hand. I still remember having a little Nokia brick phone, playing the Snake game on there. So, technology was there, but touchscreen and the way things are nowadays and how easily and readily accessible they are, that was the difference. Technology has been here. Technology has been here. First, you got to look at the definition of what technology is. You have low tech. Low tech is a thing, especially in SPED. You're taught in school the difference between a low tech device, between the difference between a high tech. There's differences. But technology has always been here. Is whether was this high tech stuff available, and that's what wasn't when I was young. We had video games. I played the heck out of video games, but in my eyes, that was pretty much the most readily available technology that I accessed on a normal, almost daily basis. Was a video game console, was a handheld video game console, or a Nintendo 64 or a PlayStation or something, but an actual computer, things like that wasn't the norm for me. Now, I know I just went off on a tangent, but, going back to reflection, if I'm a teacher in the early thousands, late 90s, I'm teaching this lesson, and technology, there's a very good chance this technology is not something that is incorporated into my lesson. I fast forward 10 years later, if I go from 1999 to 2009, technology is definitely there. It's here now. So even if I'm teaching that same lesson for 10 years, it's an automatic hit lesson. It's something very simple, basic, easy to do. Teachers, we don't really get rid of the things that are working for us. But after reflecting, let me integrate technology into this some sort of way. Is this a lesson? It may be simply as just, instead of my students doing it pencil paper, you know what? We got computers. I'm gonna let them type this up now. That's a very minimalistic, use of technology, but it is you using technology because it's available, because it is there. As the time keep going, we go from 09 to 2019, which ain't here yet, but it'll be here soon enough. We go from 2009 to 2019. The lesson that you've been implementing since 1999, within 20 years of you teaching it, should almost be completely transformed at this point. Because every year you taught it, if you're doing one of the things that essentially you're kind of taught to do early on as a pre-service teacher in college, they teach you to reflect. If you are a veteran teacher, after 20 years of teaching the same lesson, and you've not once reflected on that lesson and made any sort of changes to that lesson to make it even more impactful, or this, that, or the other, then you're kind of failing your students and you're failing yourself. Reflection is something we have to do as human beings, as adults, as children, as educators, as students. Reflection is huge. It's a part of everything we do. It's a part of our everyday life when you really think about it. Even the smallest little thing, a lot of times you might find yourself sitting back and reflecting on it. Like, did I make the right decision? You know? Now, there's a difference between reflecting and then looking at something in retrospect. That's something different. That's like, you made a decision, you wanted this TV really bad, and next thing you know, 2 weeks down the line, it went on sale. There ain't nothing you could do about that one. In retrospect, you look back and you're like, oh man, if only I would have known. If I would have just waited. If only this, if only that. But reflecting is different. You can reflect on something whether it's positive. You can reflect on something whether it's negative. Me, myself, I view myself as a very coachable person. I respond very well to not being nurtured. I don't like being nurtured. I don't like being coddled. But if you're somebody who is in my corner, and trust me, I know if you're somebody who has my best interest at hand, if you're somebody who's in my corner and you're giving me constructive criticism, I view that and I take that for everything that it is. That's invaluable experience to me. Those are things I hold on to because I'm like, this person is taking time out of their day. They're giving me advice. They want me to be the best Calvin I can be. They see something in me and they want me to unlock that potential. So the coachable part of that is not just getting that advice and doing nothing with it. There's a difference between your boss, supervisor, whoever may be, sitting you down, saying something to you, you go back into the classroom and you still don't do it. Coachable is you made a mistake, or there's something you just did wrong, or there's something you could have done. That person sat you down, spoke to you, and then you went back in the classroom, and from that day on forth, you made sure that you hit on that in some way, shape, or form. And then the next time that person, they come and observe you, and they're like, perfect, great. And they may see something else now, and they want you to fix this and work on that, but they see improvement. Coachable, it sounds exactly how it is. You're a coachable person. If you're a coach, I'm a football coach. My players that are coachable, they stand there. Their eyes are on me. They're listening to everything I'm saying. We're doing a walkthrough. I'm having them slow down. I don't want them just blurting this out, blurting that out. I want you to understand what's going on. Take it as slow as you need to, and then regurgitate it all back to me. Because I need to understand that you're getting this. My coachable players aren't gonna get mad, upset. They're not gonna quit. Their eyes, their full attention is on me because they're bought in to what's going on, because they know that the things I'm saying to them is not to hurt them or discourage them. It's to make them better, not only as football players, but as human beings. Some of your best employees that you find in a lot of places are a lot of times former athletes. Former athletes, people who, whether it be they played a sport for 1 year or they played a sport for 10 years. If that person is coachable, it will transition to other aspects of life. When I was in college, my first ever professional semester ever, it did not go off hot at all. It went south. And it wasn't like I was purposely trying to be a certain way, but things went south. And in things going south, what I had realized was I was with somebody who did not have my best, did not have the best intentions for me. That person did not try to lead me in the right direction, didn't give me any sound advice. It was just more of, okay, Calvin's coming in here every day, and every time he does something wrong, I'm going to make a note of it. And then the moment I check in with this supervisor, I'm going to say this, and this. That's not somebody you want to be around. Sadly, in that situation, I had no choice. You get placed in a location, and that's what you go with. No, I think actually no. More of the problem was the fact that I was placed in a location and the person said nothing to me. There's a difference between being placed in a location, things are going south, and this person has verbally, like I can tell, like the person's body language, like everything about them is like, this person doesn't like me. This person doesn't have my best intentions. This person, I need to be somewhere else. Versus what I was in it was more of like a show being put on. It was more of I'm a smile in your face. I'm in this, then the other, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. And then first chance I get, this is done. I'm sitting there thinking I'm doing good. I'm learning. I'm growing. Next thing I know, I get axed. And I'm like, whoa. I'm in my first ever, like I said, I'm in my first professional placement ever. Before that, I did not know certain things. So it was all a learning process. It was all learning. Everything was brand new. And it's small little mistakes too, on top of that. And that's what was very petty about it. But I still remember being sat down by all my professors, and I got all sorts of things said to me. Calvin, do you really want to do this? We're not sure. Maybe you want to look at some other majors, this, that, and the other, yada. I had one professor that took me to the side after that meeting and was like, we need you to be a teacher. This wasn't a black woman, a black male. It wasn't a person of color at all. But this professor, she understood how important it was for me to become a teacher. Calvin, I need you to do this. Because the one thing I see in you, the one thing I know about you is that you're coachable. To this day, I still reflect on that moment. That is my motivation. That is one of my sources of motivation for a lot of things. Because majority of my life, I have been down at the bottom. But the only way to go from there is up. The only way to go from there is up. So I have no excuse. I just need to get it done. When people invest in you, the worst feeling possible is letting them down. So I reflect on that. My current boss has taught me another term for myself. So I got coachable. I'll be the first person to tell you I'm a slacker, but more of a slacker when it's not something I'm not passionate about. Coaching, I'm passionate about. Teaching, I'm passionate about. But my slacker tendencies are more of me settling for certain things. When I was in school, high school senior, if you had scored a certain ACT score, you exempted out of taking finals in classes that you had a B or higher in, I believe. So I had the ACT score that allowed me to do that. So for a lot of my classes, I exempted out of having to take the final. Now my aunt, being an administrator, being a superintendent, being hardcore educator, academics mean everything, she sees my grades, and she puts one and two together. Because I told her, you had to take finals in these classes because I exempted out of them. I'm a senior. Why would I want to take these finals? Yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. She said one thing to me. Are you telling me that there was a chance, an opportunity that you could have gotten an A in that class versus a B? The moment I said yes, she continued going off on me. Because in that moment, I had to realize I was being a slacker. I settled for a B. When, if I take the final, possibly could have gotten an A. Now, in all honesty, I actually don't think I could have gotten an A. I don't think I would have, me getting a perfect score on that final would have pushed my score to all the way up to an A. I think I probably had like a low to mid 80 something. I don't think I would have got an A in the class, but she's a scary lady. Like I was scared of her for the majority of my life. So yes, of course, immediately I said, yes, I could have gotten an A. And like I said, she listened to me and she let me know why, because I was being a slacker. The things that I'm passionate about, I give 150%. The things that I'm not so passionate about, you might get 80%. Like I said, I love teaching, and there's a reason why I want to be a teacher. So there's 150% that goes into that. I would not be in this profession if I did not have that level of passion about it. But the other term for myself that I learned this past school year is that, Calvin, you're a very candid person. That's like my new favorite word, for good reasons and bad reasons. Now, if my boss would have said to me, you're a very frank person, I actually would have understood exactly what she was saying. But candid, for some reason, I never really knew the definition of that. But candid and frank are the same thing. The thing with candid, though, I think candid is just a nicer version of being frank. There's something about if somebody says you're being frank, it means you're just literally speaking your mind and you kind of don't care if it offends the other person or not. Whereas in my mind, I take candid as being you're speaking your mind, you're telling the truth, but in a sense, it's kind of more of like a constructive criticism. Like, I'm saying this not to hurt you. I'm saying this because I want improvement to happen. I want things to be better. So I had to learn, sadly, through a very a negative situation. That's when I learned that I was a candid person. You mix that with not necessarily knowing how to professionally talk all that well. You mix that in and yeah, you get me. So, I'm sitting here. I don't know the right way to really say what I'm trying to say. So everything was candid. That was a very interesting situation when it all happened, but it's something I learned about myself. But I reflect. Once again, everything's about reflection. I reflect on that moment. That was a critical juncture in my rookie teaching career, because that was something that I didn't go into education. That's not something I went into the year thinking that, something like this would happen halfway through the year. I never saw myself being in that position, but I had to reflect on it. I had to reflect on my year and be like, here's the positives, here are the negatives. How do I improve upon the negatives? And how do I continue with the positives? That's how my brain works. I view myself as a very optimistic person, but I'm very realistic. I'm an optimistic realist. I'm not a negative person. I don't like negativity around me. I consider myself, when I think about I guess you could say those stereotypical people, whatever, in my brain, I view myself being that West Coast skateboarder, surfboarder type of dude. I am very low stress. Like, I'm just very chill and relaxed. And I'm like, stress, being forced into a stressful situation is what actually stresses me out. If I'm around somebody who is willing to take that route of things instead of just chilling, let's work on this, let's hash this out, let's make this work. If that's the type of person, then it actually stresses me out even more. And then I sadly get into like, I don't even know what to call the mode. But I had to reflect on that and be like, these are things, Calvin, you can't do. These are things you can't say. But at the same time, these are the things you need to work on to prevent those things from happening ever again. These are things you need to do to better yourselves amongst your peers. Nobody wants to be that teacher that people have some thought about. You know, like, nobody wants to be that person. I don't view myself as that person, but at the same time, I'm almost 100% sure that there is some sort of thought about me. Can I blame myself? Yes, because did I take every necessary action to make sure nobody had a certain thought of who I am? No, I did not. I can't say that I did everything to represent myself in the best light possible. But I reflected. I can say that about myself. My thing is, I teach my students accountability. What type of person would I be if I can't even, or if I don't even hold myself accountable for my own actions? I'd be the biggest hypocrite. So, like I said, reflection's it's an extremely important thing. I reflected this entire summer on the school year. I reflected on my own past education. I reflected on my life in general. You know, a lot of it started with actually reflecting on football, because I'm coaching football all summer. But that's the thing. I'm that type of person who will literally sit in a room by myself and just my mind just gets to going. I'm sitting there thinking about all sorts of different things. Like, that's just how my brain works. But reflection is so important. It's so important. It's something that we all need to sit down and do. I mean, it's basically a part of meditation. When you meditate, you sit there and you reflect. Sit there and reflect. You know, that's meditation to me. That's something I know on a daily that I'm gonna do. Is reflect. How did this day go? That may be how this vlog, well, it's not a vlog, but how this, I guess, podcast goes. My goal, if I can, do a daily recording purely reflecting on the day. That might be how things go. That's probably something I need to do. That might be helpful not only to me, but whoever's out there listening. Peace.